You ever hear a neighbor say something so outrageous you just freeze and wonder what decade you've landed in? I'll never forget the day I realized our next-door neighbor wasn't just unfriendly, she was straight up dangerous. The kind of dangerous that wears pearls and weaponizes a phone. Let me back up a sec, because if you'd told me when we bought this house, a place we'd worked years to afford, that I'd wind up in a police standoff over a set of dining room chairs, I'd have laughed in your face. But here we are. It started on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. I was stuck in another soul-killing quarterly review, watching a dude in a suit point at pie charts, when my phone started buzzing across the conference table, frantic texts from my wife, Maya. "You are not going to believe this. The neighbor's lost her mind. She's screaming at me in the driveway. Call me now." My heart damn near leapt out of my chest. I mumbled family emergency, bolted out the door, shoes squeaking like an old dog toy, and called Maya before I'd even hit the lobby. I could hear chaos before she even picked up a high-pitched woman's voice, a rumble of a truck, my wife, sounding half angry, half out of breath. She tells me, Mark, she's completely unhinged. The new dining room set just arrived, and she came flying out of her house screaming about trash and welfare and some third-world flea market. She told me, and I quote, "I don't know what third world flea market you dug these out of, but you are not bringing that trash into my neighborhood." Now, mind you, this is a historic district, all oak trees and wraparound porches, the kind of place people tell stories about, at least the kind you want to be in. We'd been there all of 3 months, waved at this woman, maybe once, always got the blinds drawn treatment. Never would have guessed she was a dragon just waiting to breathe fire on anyone she didn't like. So there's Maya Grace under fire, always calm. She's got an eye for design, that architect's brain, and she's standing there supervising the new furniture. And then this woman, let's call her Karen for tradition's sake, comes out with her hands on her hips, decked out like she's starring in a commercial for retirement in Boca Raton, and starts shrieking at my wife, the delivery guys, anyone within earshot. The poor delivery kids, probably still in college, just freeze, chairs in hand, eyes wide. Maya tries to reason with her. She's a bridge builder, not a wall raiser. "You know, ma'am, I think there's been a misunderstanding. My husband and I live here. We bought this house back in March. Karen doesn't buy a word. You live here, don't you lie to me. We have standards in this neighborhood. You don't just show up with a U-Haul full of junk and claim you own a house." The arrogance, the sheer icy classism, it was like watching someone try to gatekeep oxygen. Then Karen turns it up to 11. "That's not new. You stole that furniture. I know what you people do. You're thieves, you're squatters. This is the old Henderson house, you're trying to loot it." She grabs her phone and, God help us, calls 911. There's a robbery. There's a woman with a U-Haul looting the house. I think she might be armed. Now my wife, the most non-threatening human you'll ever meet, is suddenly the subject of an armed suspect call. I'm already breaking every speed law, trying to get home white-knuckling the wheel, coaching Maya to stay calm and let the delivery guys be witnesses. By the time I pull up, the scene is pure chaos. 2 squad cars, red and blue lights, Karen playing the victim on her lawn, dabbing her eyes, pointing at Maya. One officer, big mustache, hands on his gun, is talking to my wife like she's the next Bonnie Parker. "Sir, you need to stay back," he tells me, but I'm not having it. "That woman is lying through her teeth," I say, but Maya gives me the look, "Don't make it worse." So I take a breath. We hand over IDs, the mortgage receipts for every stick of furniture. But the cops aren't convinced. Karen keeps spinning stories, saying we're part of some antique thieving ring, that the Henderson chairs were family heirlooms. Then she pulls her master stroke. She says, "There's a hidden H carved on the chair legs, proof they're Hendersons. So now the police want to examine our furniture for a secret mark." At this point, I'm wondering if Rod Serling's about to walk out from behind a tree. Of course, there's no H, just a perfectly ordinary brand new chair leg. Karen's confidence crumbles. She points to another chair, changes her story, gets desperate. Finally, the cops had enough. "Ma'am, you lied to 911. You lied to us. You've wasted everyone's time." I think finally she's going to get arrested, but nope. She flips the script, starts sobbing, claims she was just scared, misunderstood playing the frail old lady. And the cops buy it. She gets a stern warning and sent inside. No charges, no justice. That was the moment our brand new house, the place we dreamed of, stopped feeling like a home. We finished the delivery, but the joy was gone. That night, Maya says, "I want to move." And you know what? I couldn't blame her. The sense of violation was deep. A home is supposed to be your sanctuary, not a place where you're one phone call away from a felony charge because some neighbor decides you don't belong. Days go by and the tension hangs like fog. Then one night, Al from across the street, a sweet old guy, pulls me aside. "Don't mind her," he says, nodding toward Karen's house. "She's been that way for years. Worse since Henderson left." One day he just vanished. No goodbye, no moving sale, just gone. She was always over there, then nothing. That's when it clicks. Karen's obsession wasn't about us, it was about whatever happened to Mr. Henderson. We start digging. Maya and I turn into amateur sleuths. Property records, public databases, the whole nine. Turns out Karen's not as old money as she claims, moved in 5 years ago, cash from a house sale after her husband died. But then I find an old newspaper photo, Karen grinning next to a hand-carved rocking chair, local master craftswoman. That hidden mark lie, she'd know exactly how to make it sound real. And suddenly, Henderson being a woodworker, her being a woodworker, the whole antique obsession, it all clicks. We visit the furniture store, try to trace the chairs. They're reproductions inspired by Henderson's original design. The original sold-off one, still on display, a plaque names Arthur Henderson, local artisan. So we get his full name, search for relatives. His niece Sarah picks up the phone. Turns out she hasn't spoken to him in a year. Last word was from Karen telling her he'd moved to assisted living, didn't want family contact. All those helpful updates were just lies. Now we've got a missing person, a neighbor with a motive, and a hunch as strong as the oak trees lining our street. With Sarah on board, we go to the police this time with more than a neighborly dispute. Detective Miller, sharp as a tack, listens to the whole story. Karen's isolation of Arthur, her obsession, the police call everything. "People are just that weird and just that evil," she says, and I can't help but agree. But there's no body, no crime scene. We need proof. So we set a trap. Flyers accidentally land on Karen's lawn announcing an appraisal for Henderson Originals. Maya calls the furniture store from our landline, talking loud enough for the walls to hear. The cops set up surveillance. That night, 1 a.m., Karen shows up in a ski mask with a crowbar trying to break into our house to check the chairs. It's all on camera. Cops swarm, she's caught red-handed, no more frail old lady act. Under questioning, Karen cracks. She confesses everything, how she'd gaslit Arthur, isolated him, convinced him he had dementia, moved him to a rundown state facility under a false name, looted his home and pocketed the proceeds. She thought she'd gotten away with the perfect crime until a U-Haul full of reproduction chairs brought her ghosts back to haunt her. With her confession, Arthur is finally found alive, but a shadow of himself lost in a world of lies and medication. It's Maya and I, strangers to him, that break through. He recognizes us from a news report about our ordeal, about the chairs. Those chairs become his lifeline, the thing that reconnects him to the world. Sarah gets him moved to a good facility, his workshop is restored, and with the support of the community and yes, those chairs, Arthur comes back to life. Karen goes away for a very, very long time. The neighborhood breathes a collective sigh of relief. Sarah buys Karen's old house, renovates it for Arthur, turning the seat of Karen's cruelty into a workshop of new beginnings. The whole street pitches in gardens, planted walls, painted doors, widened, scars healed. Arthur becomes the heart of the block, teaching kids, hosting dinners, filling the air with laughter and the scent of sawdust. Our house, once haunted by fear, is now filled with friends, stories, and the most beautiful chairs you'll ever see. And every month, Arthur takes his seat at our table, his table, reminding us all that sometimes the ugliest beginnings lead to the most extraordinary endings. And you know what? If Karen had just been a regular, quiet racist, none of this would have happened. Her own over-the-top malice brought justice down on her head and rescued the man she tried to erase. That's poetic irony for you. So let me ask, have you ever seen hate backfire so beautifully? Would you have fought back or just moved away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about what justice means, what home should mean, and how sometimes the best stories start with the worst neighbors. If you've ever stood your ground, if you've ever helped someone get their life back, tell me about it. Because in the end, a community is only as strong as the people who refuse to give in to fear. And that's the real history worth making, one chair, one story, one neighbor at a time.